Hey friend, Kimberly here from Beautiful Life 365, and today I'm showing you my most recent art journal pages. I decided instead of just doing a flip through to show you the pages, this time I'm going to talk about some of the supplies I used and some of the techniques that I've used on each page. So let's get started. I'll just open up my journal here. On this page I've used some collage elements, and you can see where I've glued those in here. I actually have a folder where I add leftover bits and pieces that I can use in my journal, sometimes things cut out from magazines or things I've painted and didn't use. I've also used some of my DIY foam stamps on this page. This one in particular I'll show you. These are so simple and inexpensive to make, so I'll link to the tutorial below showing how to do that. I like to use acrylic paint for most of my backgrounds, so I'll show you what I use. I use some student grade acrylic paints like this paint from Amsterdam. I also use the Basic brand. This green is one of my favorite colors recently. I also use some professional grade acrylic paint, and this quinacridone magenta color is one of my absolute favorites. It's a transparent color. It's just beautiful. I recently started using this cheap craft paint you can get for less than $1, and I also like to use this heavy body white paint from Liquitex. So let me just get this out of the way. One trick that I like to use is to put wax paper between the journal pages so the paint doesn't bleed through, and this is one of those pages that I've washed it in. This is another DIY stamp. On this page I have just outlined my hand with a black Sharpie, and once I did that I used these Tombow markers to color in some of the sections. I just love these markers. They come in so many colors and they're great for blending. The background is watercolor, and I just used the Jane Davenport set that I purchased at Michael's. This page on the right is one of my pattern pages. I just draw it with a black Sharpie, and I basically just doodle shapes, and it's very relaxing. Okay, true confessions. This is a page I really don't like very much. It's acrylic again with some collage magazine pieces, and this is just some scraps where I cut out some petals. It's great because you can turn the page and start over. This is what I'll call my flower phase. Acrylic background. I got inspired by Ray Missigman and all the pastel colors that she uses. I started doodling these flowers, and I make the center with watercolors and then use the Jane Davenport watercolors as I mentioned. Then I use acrylic paint on the petals. So you can see another one here. And this is actually a Tim Holtz stencil that I've used. I used a method of using a credit card to scrape the paint down the page, so I like that technique. Here on this page I've used some collage elements like these petals, some DIY stamps, and then that's actually wax paper and white paint pen. There's my stamp that I used, and then some more white paint pen, white gel pen. On this page I use a technique where you take a stencil, and while the paint is still wet you use a wet wipe to wipe off the paint, and it leaves this relief area, and then I reuse that painted wet wipe as more collage material. This is actually an unfinished page that I'll come back to. On this page I've used more DIY stamps like this one, and I have used that same wet wipe technique here to remove the paint, and then I removed the paint with a stamp here. The idea for this layout came from a magazine ad. It's an acrylic background I just finger painted on, and then I used a white paint pen to write this, and I'll show you. This just came from Michael's. Let me flip that around. It's the Deco color white paint pen. And then this is just acrylic craft paint, that cheap paint that I showed you previously in pink and orange. Here are some more flowers, and I'll show you these centers up close. Again, just created these with watercolors. And then here I just use my finger to finger paint these little dots on and smear paint there. Here are some more flowers, and here I've used the Faber-Castell gelatos. I'll show you these up close. It's a little bit hard to see, but okay. I guess you can kind of get the picture. But I've used the hot pink first, and then I smeared this neon orange on top of that. Here I have actually used the cap from a large glue stick and added paint to make these marks, and then I used a smaller cap to make these marks, and then just outlined it with a pen. This is actually part of a painted wet wipe that I mentioned before, and I've just glued it on here. On this page I've used stencils and gelatos, some stencils there, and then here I've used two colors of gelatos. I added the light green first, and then I added the border with the darker green, and then I wet my finger and smeared it to get this effect. This is another page that I don't love, but again, it's one of the things I love about art journaling. If you don't like it, just turn the page and start over. On this page I used acrylic paint in the background again. Sometimes you use a brush. I've used that technique with the wet wipe. Just removed the paint, and this is a stencil I got at Walmart. And then it has some collage elements, and actually these petals were cut from a piece of paper that I had painted previously. You can see that here. And then this is another DIY stamp, and again I'll link that tutorial below. And then this is a stamp that I just wrote some words in with a Sharpie. On this page I have some collage elements. This one in particular I previously watercolored. And then I use my Dymo label maker. I love this. I'll link to that below the video so you can grab one if you want it. And these are collage elements from my How to Draw Doodle Flowers tutorial, and I'll link that below. And then for this center section, I painted various colors, including this quinacridone magenta that I love, and then I outlined it with that green acrylic paint that I really like right now. Then I let it dry, and then I used this heavy body white paint to cover the colors in the center, and then I used this key card to just scrape off the paint to reveal the colors underneath. And then over on the left you'll see another collage, another wet wipe that I used. So that's it for this art journal flip. Thanks for watching. If you like this type of charty journal flip, leave a thumbs up so I know, and you can leave a comment to tell me what you'd like to see more of. If you'd like to see more art and bullet journal flips and tutorials, you can subscribe to my channel and click that little bell icon to be notified when I upload new videos.